So, interesting topic we're gonna discuss today, and that is, what would I tell my 18-year-old self? Ant-Man's with me. We don't have notes in front of us. No. I didn't get like 5 bulletins on how to answer this correctly. I'm making you sit in this chair. You produce this show, and I'm also making you sit here because we're also close friends. We've traveled the world together.
We literally,
and I think
halfway around the world.
I need you to riff off of on this question, because I think it's interesting. What would I tell my 18-year-old self? If I could talk to myself, if I could write a letter to myself, what would I say? Before we get into that, I do want to address a couple things about this podcast. You and I have changed. This is episode fourth episode of 250 episodes that we've made a little bit of a change, pivoted a little bit. And what we do on this podcast, and technically still, what we still do is we answer your emails, and you email podcast@grangersmith.com. Ask anything you want. We've, especially since you came on and started producing the show, we've noticed that as many times as I've asked that question, over 200 times, and we've gotten thousands of emails, you could really categorize all of these emails into like 7 or 8 questions.
Yes. Yeah, you really can. In fact, I made categories of folders to put them in.
What are your categories?
It was marital questions.
Yeah.
Job questions.
Yeah.
Spiritual questions.
Yeah.
The ones that specifically about the Bible or about church. And then kind of separated up into guys and girl questions. Women asking questions about their husbands. Husbands asking about how to be husbands. And which it's funny though, when you write an email, and I'm speaking from my point of view, if I was writing an email, I'm thinking about what I'm thinking about, and I'm typing it out and I'm sending it. I'm the only person who's thinking about that.
Yep.
But the person on the other end is receiving that one and all of these other ones going, okay, I'm starting to see a theme. Is there a better way to answer these than going, hey, Jeff from Arkansas, here's your email, XYZ, and here's my answer. And we can go, hey, guys, if this is your issue, which we've had a lot of emails, and it might even be better than sitting through Jeff from Arkansas's email, listening to what was last week's masculinity.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a question. That is probably one of the biggest questions that we would receive here in 2024 is, and it's funny, you get emails from 13, 14-year-olds that just got an iPhone or just able to get their own email address and stuff like that, all the way up to 53-year-old men asking, "I'm struggling with being a man," basically.
Yeah.
It's not often those words, but when you get into the meat and potatoes of the actual email, that's what it was about.
Week before that, should Christians cuss?
Exactly.
Another very popular question. We've gotten hundreds of emails about that topic.
That was a big one that you and I talked about.
Yeah.
Just personally. Like, man, I'm trying to stay away from podcasts that have a lot of profanity in it because I'm trying to correct my language.
Yeah. Week before that is the world ending.
So that revolved around a little event too, though.
Yeah. So what we've done is we haven't changed anything besides the fact that we've just kind of consolidated the questions. And this week, what would you tell your 18-year-old self? That this is really a consolidation of the questions of, do you regret anything? What would you have done if you didn't do music? All of those let's just combine those and make one. Here's a response I did see on YouTube about this. It says, on a comment, "I've always been a fan of the pod, not a fan of this format currently. I think it's better when you read the emails that people send, not to do TikTok reactions," which it's not really TikTok that we're doing. No. He said, kind of a letdown. I'm assuming that's a he. And then a response to that says, "I missed the emails too, but I think this format is good. Maybe better to swap between the two every episode or something." And then someone else says, "He might be trying to expand his audience. I'm sure at this point he'll do emails again, but I can't knock him for trying new things and making content since and music, since this is now how he makes a living." So, hey, people get so used to one thing. You change it. I've done this for years. You change one little thing in a routine. You know this from the radio world. You change one thing and people, for instance, on After Midnight, you and I do good news.
Right.
And I've been like, hey, let's switch it. And instead of doing good news the first hour, let's do something else and do good news the second hour. And you're like, no. People get used to one thing. They know good news is coming at 12:17 a.m. every morning. We can't change it. And so that's what we're seeing. But I think, look, I'm not trying to change it so that I could make more money or something on this podcast. We're literally just looking for ways to serve the people better. And Abby Bryant, who's longtime fan, now turned friend, she's a member at my church at Emmaus. And she told me, she was like, hey, I like the new format. And I was like, well, thank you. Cool. And she goes, honestly, for a while now, I've been wondering, how could you possibly answer the same question about my girlfriend left me, what do I do? How could you answer that in a different way every single week? And I'm like, okay, thank you, because that's what we see. Now, maybe, and part of the reason I'm even bringing this up is so that people can comment on, if you're listening right now on a format where you can comment. Now, let me know what you think of this. Now tell them about what your idea is for the live podcast.
This whole turn in changing up the podcast started with while we were in Israel, and I showed you what we could do with a live.
Yep.
I'm like, hey, let's try that when we get back. Well, when we started doing the live, like, well, what if these were the actual questions? And we got into some of the deeper topics, which you can't really get into with if somebody asks a pointed question, it's hard to venture off from that and stay on the email. At least with a topic, you can incorporate the emails into the topic. On the lives, which we have a live coming up next Thursday, the day before Yee Day.
Nice.
We'll do a live. We're going to take some specific emails and answer those, plus give you the opportunity to actually ask live in the moment while you're watching Granger a question.
Which is so cool. Yeah.
And it's a way different feeling on this side of the camera or this side of the microphone than anything else. And so I think this whole shift is allowing you the opportunity, hopefully, to answer more than just a one single pointed email. Well, he didn't answer my question. Well, he did. He answered yours and 10 other ones at the same time. And so that's really the goal of the whole thing. And to maybe bring some other perspectives into your question.
Yeah.
It allows you not to, and that's where that's something personally I deal with. I get really lost and focused on my question, my problem, my issue, that I don't even consider other solutions because it doesn't exactly pertain to what I'm dealing with. So maybe this will help those viewing and listening and think outside of just their specific question.
The idea still is that we're sitting in the cab of a truck, driving on the road. You ask me a question and we walk through it. Yeah. My goal, and I've been saying this lately, like maybe the last few months I've been saying that my goal really with this podcast is not to just give you an answer so that you could apply it to your life. It's more so to give you a way to think. Yeah. Let's think through these things together. And let me tell you where I'm basing my thinking on. This is where my thought process comes from, and I'll show you how I'm building answers so that ultimately that's how we can empower listeners so they don't just go to social media and get answer, but instead they're learning how to think, which is almost a lost art in 2024. Let's think together. Let's use our brains instead of being fed an answer. What's an answer? We just literally type it. We ask a question. We ask AI. We ask Google. We ask YouTube. Tell us, because I have a question. We've lost the ability to reason with ourselves through some kind of foundational grounding, which you and I would say the Bible. Yes. And that's what this is.
And how to correct your thinking.
Ooh, yeah, it's good.
That's anything that I ever say on here, talking to you, will be more times than not from an experience that I've personally had in God correcting me in mine. So it's never a finger. It's the one finger pointed at you and the three back at me. That saying is that's mine. And like if I'm thinking a certain way, if I learn how to go back to the Bible and see where my thinking lines up, if it does line up with the Bible, great. If it doesn't, I'm the problem, because it's not. The Bible's not the problem. Yeah, I'm always the problem if they don't line up together.
That's good. So this episode's going to be about regret. It's going to be about if we still align with the old decisions that we made, and ultimately, hypothetically, if you could write a letter back in time to your old self, what would it be? I think this is an interesting topic. And the reason I literally was going to record this and I was like, nope, Ant-Man, sit in this chair. I need you on this one. I'm not going to talk to myself on this one. I think it's interesting that you and we met, 2014 maybe? 13, 15? I don't know.
When did Backroad Song come out?
15 maybe? Right behind you is a BMI award that says Backroad Song, but I don't think it has a date on it.
It doesn't.
Maybe 15.
Okay.
14.
It was right around
15.
that because it was the on the Verge song for iHeart.
Yeah.
It was right around that time, so either right before
or 16.
Yeah.
Something in there. I think it went number 1 Valentine's Day 16.
Okay.
Because we lost Dad in 14.
Okay.
And I signed a record deal that fall because I remember thinking Dad would have thought this is cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, you and I met 10-ish years ago, and we were in very different places.
Very.
You were in Arizona.
Yeah.
I was a touring artist. Both of us don't do either one of those jobs anymore.
Right.
And we met, and man, what a crazy story when we met. Ended up being not a fight, but a huge argument. And not between us, but between the guys that worked for us, really, in a weird way.
And when I look back on it, I remember I feel like now I said something to Tyler because Tyler was in that conversation. You're on stage singing, and I remember saying something like it was something I know smart Alec. I don't remember exactly what I said, but I was more frustrated that I was having to deal with this because it wasn't me. You know? I don't mind dealing with my own junk, right? It's somebody else's. Like, oh, I've got to admit, like everything was fine, and you had to say, but
there was drama.
Yeah, a lot of drama.
So the day and it doesn't even matter the details, but the day that we met, there was major drama, and we were two different people.
Very.
So that's why this concept of would you go back? Do you have regrets? Would you have done things differently? I think that comes into play here, and I think that's why you're a great guest for this. You and I are very much on the same page today, and we probably were in 2015 also. We were just different people on the same page.
Exactly. I found a video the other day I started a show that's still running today with a different host. It's called Country House Party, but it was the show's 100th show, which that means it was once a week, so it was 2 years old, and you were on it, and just the content what we were talking about is not content we would talk about now. I mean, it's like, taking shots and doing, how late did we stay up? Whatever it was just watching it back. I was like, it was a little cringy, but also a little reflective.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh man.
Yeah.
We kind of look the same, but
we resemble each other. It's weird. I look at those old videos and that's just not me. It's just someone that kind of resembles me.
Yeah, same.
If we have time, let's go back and we'll give the details of that story that day.
Okay.
Because people are probably now wondering what was the argument
and
about.
you can't look it up. It's not on the internet. There's no blog.
No one knows it.
Yeah.
So we'll discuss this. If we have time, we'll put this at the end of the podcast. We'll tell you what we're talking about and why there was a big drama that day I met Ant-Man. Okay, so 18 years old. I was senior year, high school. I turned 18 the fall of 1998. I believe, yeah. It's always easy to remember my age in the year because it's the same number. So 98, I was 18, and I was playing football in Dallas, and graduated high school that next May, and went on to A&M. So 18 years old, I was playing football, graduating high school. Summer before college, went to A&M, was in the Corps of Cadets in the fall of me being 18, right before 19. So that's kind of the era we're discussing here. How about you?
1995.
Okay.
So I was always the year. So I graduated in 95. My birthday's in May. So it was always right around graduation at the time. So it was May of 95. I had already started in radio. I started in 94 before I turned 18, just doing odds and ends at a radio station. But the reason I wanted to get into radio was because I was a drummer and I wanted to meet art. I didn't know how else to meet artists other than moving to Nashville And it's funny. I just had a conversation with one of the guys from for King and Country, and I said I was a really good Oklahoma drummer, and then I found out there's really good Nashville drummers, and that's way different than really good Oklahoma drummers. And that my focus shifted, and then into radio. But that's I was starting college at Oklahoma City University. Actually, I'd already had, I think, one semester in. I started college while I was in high school too, because I knew what I wanted to do.
Yeah,
I knew.
So it sounds like we'll be able to answer similar in this what I'm about to say right now. And if you're listening and you're either interested in looking back on your life, or if you are this age, and I think a lot of people probably are this age, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, you and me both, I thought I had a lot figured out. I thought I had a lot going on.
Yeah.
And the first thing I tell myself is, buddy, you haven't even started yet.
Right.
You have no idea. That's the first thing I tell myself. The guy that just thinks he's got it going on, thinks he has it figured out. You look like a man. You're the stature of a man, but your brain is not. I'm not talking to 18-year-olds out there. I'm talking to my old self. See how I did that?
You saved it.
I saved it. I was an idiot.
Yeah.
And so my life hadn't even started yet. It was still building, and I hadn't started yet. I played music on the weekends, and I hadn't entered a place of any kind of regret at that point. I don't have any regrets when I look back on 18 or younger. I hadn't done anything yet that would cause me to go, that mistake ended up being this.
Yeah, same.
Nothing yet. Not to say if anyone's listening has made a mistake like that, not to say it can't be redeemed. But that's the first thing I say is I thought I had it figured out. I didn't. And I think the reason I start with that, because where I want to go with this is I didn't know the Lord.
Yeah.
I thought I did.
Yeah.
And so
Were you in youth group?
Yeah.
You go to youth group every Wednesday?
Yeah. Because there was also girls there.
Yep. Of course there were.
Pretty girls
Yeah.
did youth group. Yeah. Once again, didn't really think about it then that was the motivation. I see it clearly as I look back.
Right.
It's like, why did I go on that weekend trip? Well, because so-and-so and so-and-so
Yeah,
girls
exactly.
were there.
Yeah.
And other friends were there too. It was a social event.
Yeah.
Youth group, young life, youth camps, even church itself. It was a social event for an 18-year-old. And I didn't know the Lord, but I thought I did.
Yeah.
That wasn't a problem then, but it soon became a huge problem. And of course, not knowing the Lord is always a huge problem, but it hadn't manifested into the beast that it would become over the next 15 years after 18,
Okay.
15 to 20. And that was a slow attrition. As I got into the music business and as I started fighting for what I had and what I could achieve and went through a bunch of failure. As I went through failure, as that's really what paved the path in my cultural Christianity. Most people would be like, well, that's what paved the path to success, right? Well, that's not the point I'm trying to make. My point is when you fail and people go, oh man, how long is this music thing going to last?
Sure.
And you go, and you dig deeper and you fight harder and you write more songs and you play more clubs for no money. And you continue to scratch and claw for a slice of that American pie. And then when you finally start making something happen, people go, wow, this is, must be nice, overnight success. And then you just kind of growl deep down. You go, I did this. Mm-hmm. How dare you say overnight success for 10 years from 18 to 28.
Yeah.
I've fought to have any kind of recognition. A slow attrition, slow failures after slow failure, after tiny success, slow failure again, tiny success. And then you look back and you start gradually become conditioned to the idea of, I did it. I did it. I did it. And then when you thought that idea that you thought you were a Christian slowly starts becoming secondary. You're not thinking about it at all, because now all you're thinking is, I'm my own God.
Yeah.
No one says that. No one says it in that way, but that's surely how you act. Long time ago, I started Grangersmith.com. When I say a long time ago, I'm talking decades ago. Started Grangersmith.com for the purpose of mainly tour dates and, getting my music out there. And the last thing that was on my mind really was selling merch, or much less, how in the world do you sell merch? Like, practically, how does that work? Physically, how do people click on something and then end up buying something and it charges their credit card? Well, fast forward all these years and, I have Yee Apparel. Literally, that's what we do from yee.com is sell apparel. And we do that by using Shopify. See, Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. Whether it's from the launch your own online shop stage or the first real life store stage to, did we just hit a whole bunch of orders stage? Shopify is there to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or outdoor apparel like we are, Shopify helps you sell everywhere. Basically, they are an all-in-one e-commerce platform. So it does all the work for you in selling whatever product you want. They have a really good way of turning browsers into buyers too. They have the internet's best converting checkout. That's 36% better on average compared to the other leading commerce platforms. That's really good. You could sell more with your business with less effort thanks to Shopify Magic. That is your AI-powered all-star. Look, I'm the first to admit I'm not a techie person. I can't program code. I'm just not the kind of guy to do that. I am the guy to go, hey, man, this is a good hoodie, or this is a good hat for fall fishing. But I don't want to get into the nitty gritty of how do I actually make the program to do this. And that's why Shopify has been so great for me and Tyler and Parker, my brothers, for so many years. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce platforms in the US. And so it's not just me. They have millions of entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. Plus, Shopify's award-winning help is there to support your success every step of the way, because businesses that grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Granger, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Granger right now to grow your business no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/Granger. Hey, real quick, if you want to get a hold of me, did you know that that's easy to do with cameo.com/GrangerSmith? Log in there. You could find me and ask me to send you any kind of message you want. And I do that on a phone. And I send you a video of whatever phone message you want. It could be happy anniversary, making some kind of baby announcement, happy birthday, a word of encouragement, whatever that might be. You just tell me in the comments how you want me to do it, and I'll shoot it over to you. Super easy. You could also download that app, Cameo, Cameo, and search for me, Granger Smith. I'll shoot you a video message. It's a great way to stay in touch.
What would you say that kept you moving through the failures? Because mine's a little different. That's why.
I answer that differently now, today.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's the Holy Spirit today, but never would have said that back then. Didn't know what that even meant.
Right.
So it was maybe stubbornness is kind of maybe a way to define it. I was dead set on proving people wrong.
Yeah.
I never had a lot of talent in music. When I was doing the Opries, this is what these singing things, North Texas had a bunch of these Opries on Saturday night. And I would go and I played a lot of them. And people always liked me. I was always a likable artist, especially with the old people.
Yeah.
Because I'd wear my starched jeans and my belt buckle, and I was always very likable. And I sang likable songs by Haggard and George Strait, Alan Jackson. But I never was the guy that people cried or were wowed by.
Right.
They could hold the note for 30 seconds and just make people a standing ovation.
You're comfortable.
Yeah, I never got a standing ovation. So I would enter contests all the time, and I was always like the third place guy.
Right.
That everyone was very happy with me getting third place. Like, That I like Granger, the young Granger. He gets third place, and what a great talent. But then I was never the first. The first guy would be like, wow, this guy's going to get a record deal. He's incredible. In fact, a lot of those guys did. What's that one? Steve Hawley was one of those guys.
Really?
Steve Hawley was Holy. Sorry.
Yeah.
Steve Hawley.
Good Morning, Beautiful.
Yes, he was the guy. LeAnn Rimes was another one. The same era.
That's cool.
LeAnn and Steve could just blow away an audience. And they would just, hair blow back. Their voices were so strong. They had such incredible stage presence. And standing ovations, win every contest. Yeah. I was never that guy. Never was I ever first place in those type of deals. And as I started going through the 10 years after 18 to 28, everyone that I used to do those Opries with started stopping singing. They would get married, they would get a job, they would have babies, and they started falling off. This guy's not doing it anymore. This girl's not doing it anymore. And I was the only one that just kept going, even past Steve Hawley, technically past LeAnn Rimes to some extent. I just kept going out of stubbornness. Yeah. And as I kept going and all these people that used to be around me were falling off, I was the only one standing. And so I was able to get success really just by a process of elimination in a lot
stubbornness.
of ways. I was just stubborn. Yeah. I'd done it for a long time and I was the guy that didn't have all the talent but just kept going.
Yeah.
And that is what built up the idea of my own personal sovereignty. The old, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
I'm stubborn. I'm still here. I will keep going. I will prove them wrong. And eventually that led to me being on top of things for the first time ever. It took 10, 15 years before I was number one in things and first in touring and first in, that took a long time. All of that is just to say I was building a personal sovereignty, personal power over myself. So as I'm talking to my 18-year-old self, I'm like, hey, you're about to get into some dangerous stuff. Drugs, okay, that's dangerous. Total promiscuous sex type stuff, that could be dangerous. Getting into organized crime, that could be dangerous. Creating your own personal sovereignty, your own God of yourself, that is death. That is death. That is hard to recover from. Yeah. How do I explain that to my 18-year-old self?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Part of this discussion, this is what I want to ask you too, it's the big conundrum of I can't tell my 18-year-old self that because if I don't go through what I did, I'm not here today looking in hindsight about it. Say I go to high school, go to college, go to seminary, like a lot of guys do. Right out of college, go to seminary, go into some pastoral assistant role in some local church, marry a little girl, have some babies, live a pastor life. That's great. There's nothing against it. And a lot of my friends have done that.
Yeah.
But I'm not who I am today. I don't have the zeal. I don't have the fire that the Lord has given me through me being an idiot. So I'm not advocating for anyone. Don't do that. Do the seminary right out of high school, out of college. That's way better. But I look at it like a game of Jenga. And my life is all those blocks, all the mistakes, everything I did, all that stubbornness. Those are blocks. If you take those out, and my tower crashes. I'm not radically reborn. I'm not the guy that leaves country music for ministry. All of those. And I'm not the guy that loses River because of my own stubbornness. All of that falls. And I'm not who I am today. Is that how you feel at all? Is that?
Yeah, well, a little bit, but mine's almost the opposite. Yours was stubbornness through the failures. And it's, man, you're bringing back some, and we've never talked about this part. I think I've sent you one time a promo picture of me.
I remember that. Yeah.
And everything you just talked about going to all the Opries, flashbacks. I did all the same things. But you know what I wasn't good at? is I wasn't good at pushing through failures, because there were a lot of things that came really easy for me. I say a lot of things. Drumming, playing. My dad was a singer, so I played for him. And I was around a lot of other really good drummers. So I learned over that period of time where you're very impressionable. Like I'm talking like 5, 6 years old, 7 years old, sitting behind my dad's drummer, but then filling in and playing at 8 years old and 9 years old, because I could hold a steady beat and I wasn't thrown off by other people. It just came naturally. And we're not talking about big stage. We're not talking about the Grand Ole Opry. We're not talking about a stadium or anything like that. But for that, I was great. I was really good at a young age.
Yeah.
And it came easy. So I continued doing stuff that was easy. When I got into radio, I moved quickly in radio. I didn't move quickly. I could say this now, couldn't say it then. I'm not a good singer.
But you have the voice of an angel.
But that's that people will go, well, you have a good voice. I imagine you sing well. Like, no, I mean, I know when I'm flat or sharp, and I know if I'm not singing, if it's too high for me, if I crack, all that stuff. But I would do all the Opries and stuff like that, and when I would fail, I'd be like, not doing that again. I'm out. And not saying that if I'd pushed through that I would have, done that or been, somebody in the as a singer, but it was the other stuff that came much easier. That I got a scholarship to a liberal arts college, a great one in Oklahoma, and I'm not good at symphonic drumming. I'm not good at reading sheet music and playing marimba or xylophone. I was like, other stuff I don't have to try as hard. Radio I don't have to try as hard. I was, at 17, I was, re-racking carts and CDs and stuff like that for other jocks. And by the time I was 20, I had an afternoon show in Oklahoma City on the 100,000 watt country station.
Voice of an angel.
It did stop that. And that's what's funny is that I don't think that I have a good voice. I think that okay, if I do this, I can be better. If I can, and so I think on the opposite side though of that, of being 18 and going through things, I didn't persevere through some of the hard stuff, which caught up with me later in life.
I see what you mean. Opposite, yeah.
It was the opposite, yeah.
I remember one time playing an Opry in Mesquite, Texas, and trying a couple of new songs, new old songs from George Strait probably. I don't remember which ones they were. Meaning I didn't really prepare that much, and I remember I went out there and on the second verse I just blanked.
You forgot it all.
No idea what it was, and the band is just kind of looping.
Yeah.
And they're back there like, it's okay, Granger, you'll think of it. And I just, the longer time went by, the more I could not remember it.
The worse it got.
And everyone's just staring at me like, look at this idiot. So ended up just going right to the last chorus and just finishing the song. Went out the side door. It was a field out there. And I just went out there and yelled at the moon. Just screamed at the moon and got on my knees and put my face in the dirt, just ashamed. Like if it was in the Old Testament, I would have been putting ashes on myself.
Yes, of course, yeah.
I mean, ripping my
Where's
clothes.
the burlap?
Yeah. It was awful. And sackcloth. I remember sitting out there in the dirt, in my starched jeans, just going, I'll never be unprepared again.
Yeah.
Never. And I remember someone, they used to give me the VHS of it at the end of the night. Give me the VHS and I'd go home and watch it. They gave me the VHS. I destroyed it.
You didn't want to watch it.
Just crushed it with a hammer.
Yeah.
Ripped all I wish I had it. That'd be amazing to have it now. But that's how it was.
Had the crushed up VHS or had the actual VHS?
I had the actual VHS. Yeah. So that's kind of how I built over a decade of I'll never mess up again. I will push through. I will go back. I will redeem this night. I'll do it again. I don't want to feel this feeling of defeat again. And
I don't want to feel this, and I will change it.
Yeah, and I'll change it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did this to myself. Mm-hmm. This happened because of me, and I'll fix it because of me. Mm-hmm. So if you're 18 right now and you're listening to this, it's like, what's the takeaway, Granger? I'll tell you exactly what the takeaway is, actually. I told you I was going to bring this iPad here just in case I thought of something in the Bible and I know exactly where to go. If I was going to say, hey, Granger, what should you understand? I would say, you need to understand above all else, young 18-year-old Granger, before you get into this world where you think you're fighting for your own sovereignty, you think you're developing your own talent, you think the crowds are coming because of you, you think you're sustaining crowds because of you, you think crowds are leaving because of a mistake you made, you think you have all this under control. You need to understand Psalm 1 that says, blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the wicked, nor stands in the way of sinners, nor sits in the seat of scoffers, but his delight is in the law of the Lord. And on his law he meditates day and night. He is like a tree planted by streams of water that yields its fruit in its season, and its leaf does not wither. And all that he does, he prospers. The wicked are not so, for they are like chaff that the wind drives away. Therefore, the wicked will not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. For the Lord knows the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked will perish. So I say to this to myself, I don't care what you do. I don't care what you succeed in. I don't care what you fail in. I don't care what George Strait's second verse songs you forget.
Right.
If you stay close to the Lord, like a tree planted by streams of water, you will prosper.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the message to 18-year-olds now. That's the message to my kids now.
Yeah.
And that's the message I would tell my old self. I don't care what you do, buddy. I don't care what talent you have. The Lord gave you all of it.
Yeah.
If you stay close to him, you will prosper. Does that mean with money and wealth and fame? No. Maybe, but that's not what I mean at all. And that's not what this verse means at all.
And what's a practical, everyday, something I can apply today as an 18-year-old? Or you're talking to yourself, right? Your 18-year-old self. What's a practical thing you can do to stay close to the Lord?
I'm going to give you two or three. One, you need to be around other people that are close to the Lord.
Yep.
Like you can't. You love wrestling. In fact, you have a podcast called Wrestle Chat.
Yeah.
If anyone loves wrestling like Ant-Man, go look up Wrestle Chat. It's a great podcast. When you love wrestling, you crave to be around other people that love wrestling.
Sure.
That's just obvious. It's as obvious in anything in life. You love the Lord. You need to crave to be around other people that love the Lord.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah.
Other people, older and same sex. So if you're an 18-year-old guy, find older guys that are close to the Lord.
Yeah.
Because they can spot stuff much quicker in you than you can in yourself.
That's good.
That's leading you away from God.
Yeah.
And that's something, looking back on mine, raised by a single mom, 4 sisters. And so there wasn't a lot of male influences. What we talked about the masculinity thing on the podcast last week, and when it kind of resonated with me, and I probably some of those emails stood out a little bit more to me, and it became that podcast. Was that, man, if you'll surround yourself earlier with men that go to the church, wherever you go to church, go seek them out. Be diligent in looking for those opportunities. Ask. You're gonna be embarrassed by something. That might be something that you should be embarrassed about. That you said asked an older gentleman to help mentor you, and they said no, they're too busy. If that embarrasses you, but you're going to be embarrassed about a lot of other things that are much more embarrassing. Not that, but find those guys.
Yeah,
seek them out because they're going to help you.
So be around people, like-minded people that love the Lord. Yeah. Number 2. If you want to hear the Lord, if you want to be close to the Lord, you need to go where he speaks. And he speaks through the Bible.
Yep.
The living, breathing word of God. We'll take Psalm 1. We'll just only use Psalm 1, for example. The law, David is writing here, but his delight is in the law of the Lord. And on this law, he meditates day and night. That word law could be synonymous with word, the word. So in the New Testament, we see the word. Jesus uses that a lot. He who keeps my word. If anyone loves me, he will keep my word. Yeah. Synonymous with law. specifically talking about the law of Moses, but it's really synonymous with the word of God, the law of God, the precepts of God, the testimonies of God, being close to that which is the Bible.
Yeah.
That is what we have. We have the law, we have the word, we have the precepts, we have that. So if you want to be close to the Lord, if you want to be like a tree planted by streams of water that yields its fruit in its season, and its leaf does not wither, and all that he does, he prospers. If you want to be that guy, then you go close to him as he has revealed himself in the Bible. So you're around his people, and you go to where he speaks his Bible. In fact, you take care of those two things. I believe your prayer life is going to increase.
No doubt.
I believe you're going to join a local church, because that's the inevitable place where you will go to be around God's people, is the church, which is the bride of Christ. So I believe you'll join a local church to be around the people and to read the word. It all comes together in those three aspects.
You know, I think that's a great challenge to, if you are not an 18-year-old and you're somebody who is, very involved in their church and is seeking for ways to be, to give back, seek those kids that are getting ready to graduate this May and stay plugged in with them as they leave, because this is the time they fall away. This is the time that they leave and go start exploring. They're adults now. Yeah. I have a 21-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
And this is the time that they make a decision about things that do affect in real world the rest of their life.
Yeah.
And
so, I mean, that's it. Granger, the 18-year-old, Anthony, the 18-year-old.
That's right.
That was your name back then, not Ant-Man, right?
Anthony has the full name, yeah. Very quickly it became Ant-Man in there. Yeah.
Be the guy of Psalm 1.
Yeah.
Now, how you do that, there's a lot of ways to do that. We've named a few, but be that guy, Granger. Then go off and do your music, do your thing, make your mistakes, make your whatever, but don't ever get away from being that guy. Now, I have to say as a caveat, again, I'll say it again, that's impossible to tell myself that, because if I tell myself that, then I'm not who I am today.
Yeah.
So but hypothetically, and mainly just speaking to people listening, I think we have a few minutes left.
Okay.
We should tell the story of what happened, the drama of the day in Phoenix. So the day I meet Ant-Man, we're coming in to do a festival that you put on, a radio show.
It's a barbecue festival.
What was that called?
Great American Barbecue and Beer Fest.
Okay.
And it's no longer going on.
Okay. So
this wasn't the last show. So just
what happens in radio, this is the game that's played, is that we get asked to do shows. Sometimes we get paid, sometimes we don't. Mm-hmm. But we do it because it's usually a favor for the station, hoping that in return they'll either get to know you and like you more,
right, and
then ultimately that they play your song.
Yeah.
So as a new artist, you're doing all these barbecue festivals all across the country. So did you quickly, I guess, did you find me specifically, or did the label pitch me, or how did that?
I asked specifically for you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. We were doing, it was On the Verge was clicking. On the Verge, I don't want to get into all the details, but On the Verge was it's kind of like the overarching, we're all going to get behind this one song and make it a hit. Okay. If you play a song, look at the song Macarena.
Yeah.
The song is not a hit, but it was played so much it became a hit. Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you for that.
But so is everybody we're going to get behind this song. We got behind Granger's Backroad song. It was your first release on a major label.
And that's important. It was our first release. This is the first round of these type of events. Yet we had been doing this for 10 years before that at a minor leagues level.
But it was very evident. It was very evident
that
a lot of things were clicking for you at that time. The song was great. It was an On the Verge for our company. Earl Dibbles Jr. was clicking on also.
The company that I now work for as a radio host, which is so ironic.
It is. And have we played it On the Verge yet? I don't know if we've talked about that on the show.
I don't think we've talked about it.
But worlds collided at a great time.
So that's the scene set. Yeah. What had happened years before this, we were kind of conditioned to playing these just hole-in-the-wall clubs, horrible places, and festivals that were also hole-in-the-wall festivals. Yeah. Mom and pop
one-offs
put on some one-time festival that went out of business the next year, and it was horrible. And what would happen was, time after time, we would go to these these places, these barbecue festivals in Ames, Iowa, or whatever, and they would get either the local DJ from the internet radio station or one of the sponsors or the owner of the festival or club who was drunk to introduce us. And so they'd get out there and they'd go, "Hey, ladies and gentlemen, here's Earl Dribbles, Granger, welcome to the stage." And we would be horrified. We'd be like, "Oh." And we wanted to be as professional as possible. Yeah. We wanted to have a good intro, and these guys would ruin it every night. So over the course of time, we made this rule, like, they can never introduce us. We'll just do our own introduction. So Chris and Blake were doing it, right? Chris Lee and Blake Stewart.
Yeah, it was just Chris, I think, on this one.
Okay, it's just Chris.
I think it was just Chris on this, yeah.
So Chris, we said, "Hey, Chris, you get up and you introduce us so that you know what to say. And then tell the radio station they can't do it," which changed later. But that's who we were going into this.
You've been doing that for a year, 2 years, 3 years, right?
Yes.
With Chris doing the intro.
Yeah. More than
smart.
that. Yeah. And so going into a big radio station in a big city, this is new for us. And so me and Tyler are out of the loop. Our machine is working like it always does, just a well-oiled machine, just does what it does. It says what it says to the people. And one of the reactions is we do our own intro. Right. And somehow that was translated to your team. And you guys, I don't know how that went down, but we do our own intro.
Well, on our side, what we get is either a hard intro or a soft intro.
Yes. Which is what we did later in life as we learned that lingo.
So what the record label guy told me was that, hey, this is a soft intro, which typically for us means it's a video intro. Like you have this big production that happens and it leads into the production of the first song and stuff like that's what typical.
Let me just tell people what that means. A hard intro means the guy says, "Welcome to the stage, Granger Smith." The band plays. A soft intro is, "Welcome in just a few more minutes, Granger Smith." And then the lights go down, maybe a video intro plays or maybe a one more DJ song. But most of y'all that have seen me in concert are used to the soft intro. Right. Okay, go ahead.
Right. Yeah, but that's what that was the word we got. So I related to our morning show that it's soft intro. So when you go back up, XYZ, thank all the sponsors again, and basically the last thing you need to say is, "Guys, get ready, Granger Smith's coming up next." That's the basic, and that's what they were told, and that's what they did. And then in their eyes, the morning show's eyes, somebody else got up and said, "Hey, y'all ready to go? Give me a yee-yee." And the crowd, it's like, and so while that's happening, my morning show looks at me and looks at the stage and goes, "I thought this was a soft intro. That guy's doing a hard intro." Yeah. And it left.
So we took the glory away from the morning show.
Yeah.
I don't totally blame them because this was something that's just bad ethics. That's bad concert ethics that we didn't know. And the morning show, I now, he's a great guy. And we've years, this has been over a decade ago, almost. But in his eyes, we know what we're doing, and we're doing it on purpose in his face.
Yeah. Tell him a soft intro so we can do what we do.
So we could do, because he's not good enough. Yeah. What we didn't know that was even a thing. Right. And so we didn't even see that going down. Yeah. So he goes to Twitter, and he blasts me on Twitter.
It's like 3 in a row.
And everyone joined in, and what he's saying is things like, this new guy, this new artist, here he is, brand new, he thinks he's hot stuff. All these new artists with these ego problems, And people all in the radio sphere that see it on Twitter are like, "Oh, wow. I don't know this Granger Smith guy, but he sounds like a punk."
Yeah, he's a jerk.
He's a jerk.
The best line, though, was from Matt, was who was the morning show guy. He was that, "It seems that you don't know," I'm still paraphrasing, but the line is, "You don't know where your bread is buttered."
Yes.
Was the best line. It's like,
that's right.
That's what I remember from it. It was buttering of the bread that really sent it over the edge.
Yes. So all this is going down while I'm playing the show. I don't even know this is happening.
There's no clue.
I have no clue. Yeah. Tyler sees it, I guess, on Twitter, and it goes to you.
No, I had started kind of, it was, we're talking 3/4 of the way through the show before I really noticed anything. So, and I'm kind of going to beat the crowd. I'm going to roll out. And so I go and I'm in my car and I see stuff on my phone. So I open it up and I'm like, and I go, and I open my door back up and get out of my car and shut it and text the record rep and go, okay, let's go, let's talk. And hey, can you meet me here? And so the record rep, who's my relationship, and Tyler, that's my first time meeting Tyler ever, is this whole ordeal. And like I said, I remember saying something smart, like, just because I'm tired. And it's Arizona, and it's, even in March, we're talking like 98 degrees, 100 degrees, close to that anyway. And it's hot, it's barbecue. We've been out there all day long, and I got to deal with this mess from a guy who's in bed sleeping already, because he's got to get up the next day, whatever it was. But yeah, that was our first encounter.
That's how we met.
Yep.
Obviously, everything is good. Right. All parties involved, except for the record rep, who's, that was a different story. That's another podcast.
Yeah.
But all of that to say, most of y'all know, Ant-Man and how close we work together worldwide, and different shows we do together. And so that was our beginning. So, buddy, thank you for being on this podcast.
Course.
Thanks for helping wrestling
me on,
with a really interesting question. What would I tell my 18-year-old self? Yeah. See y'all next week. Thanks for joining me on the Granger Smith podcast. I appreciate all of you guys. You could help me out by rating this podcast on iTunes. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to this channel, hit that little like button and the notifications bell so that you never miss any time I upload a video. If you have a question for me that you would like me to answer, email grangersmithpodcast@gmail.com. Yee.